Hello, welcome. My name is Tom, WA9CW. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about uh, bugs with you. This is the first of 4 videos that I'm going to do. Uh, Today we're going to talk about the anatomy of the bug, or the parts of the bug, and a little bit about how they relate to one another. The next video will be a pre-setup video of what things need to be done before you begin to set up and adjust the key. There's a few things that need to be uh, final. You need to make sure that you have good continuity and the right tension on the arbor and such. And so we'll talk about that and how to do that and what it takes to get that in the pre-setup video. The next one will be a setup and fine adjustment video. And there's some good ones out there too, by the way, that are already around. And then the fourth one will be the operation, or the physical manipulation of the key itself, and that's in what I call the classical style of bug sending. And I'll show you, and I'll also give you historical references for what I believe is the historical or classical style of bug sending. So we'll begin today, right now, with the anatomy, or the parts of the bug. We'll start here with We'll start by just looking at the pendulum assembly. Now, I don't edit these videos, so if I make a big error here, I'll just call it a blooper and we'll start over. But hopefully we can get through it. But this is the moving part, and this is the weight. This is the heavy weight from Vibroplex. This is the weight rod. Kind of easy to see how you call it that. And this is the dit collet. We also call this the U-shaped dit spring because of its shape. Now notice that the bottom of the U faces toward the knob. Sometimes you'll get one that'll be backwards, and I've seen that. Actually, I've seen it fairly often. But this is the correct way to the position of that. So anyway, this is the mainspring. This is what gives the bug its vibrating action. This is the heart of the bug right here. Believe it or not, this one little simple piece, that's the heart of this key. Now, where it fits into the main body here, there's also a spring that repels this whenever you turn loose of the dit paddle. When you're sending dits, when you turn loose of it, this spring repels it and moves the moving U-spring away from the fixed contact, and it lays the pendulum up against the damper down here. So that there's not a lot of tension there, but there's enough to move this away, and move it away quickly so that there's no interference. And then the other spring that you see here, this is the one that controls the amount of pressure it takes to move the dash lever over. Neither one of these are very strong springs, but they do have some adjustment in them. And then we come to the knobs. This is the dash knob, and this is the dit paddle. Dash knob, dit paddle. Thumb piece, finger piece. Thumb, finger, piece. It's going to be important later. Now, on this, up here we have the dit contacts on the U-shaped dit spring. Back here we have the contacts, adjustable contacts for the dash lever, and these can be moved around a little bit. They can be adjusted so that they meshes up with the dash contacts, fixed dash contact. The arbor, or this pin that goes through here, the pivot pin, or the arbor, is a cone shaped on each end of the standard model. We're only going to talk about the standard model today. because we'll take a minute maybe and talk about the jewel movement, but it's a little bit different animal. We'll talk about it on another video. But today we're talking about the standard model, which has the cone-shaped ends on the arbor. Okay, so we have weight rod, U-shaped spring, dit spring, mainspring, the main body of the pendulum, and the dash lever of the pendulum, and the arbor with the cone-shaped tips, the dit return spring, and the dash lever spring. Now, when we get over to the main body here, to the base, we have the damper, U-shaped. We have this damper. And in the case of the original, it's a two-step damper. It's a two-stage. It moves here, and it also has this little wheel that spins. Now, this is a Champion of Vibraplex, and you can see that it has a different assembly, but they work exactly the same. It's a wheel that hangs on this screw that's a little bit smaller than the inside diameter of that, so that it hangs. It's got play in it, and so the damper strikes it just below the center of gravity of it, and that's what allows it to keep bouncing it, moving it, and it spins. You can even see this one has a mark all the way around it. I had that. Well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it has a mark all the way around it where the damper bumps it. But this is the damper. The purpose of the damper is to stop the movement of the pendulum from vibrating, because when you let off of the dit paddle, this will still be vibrating to a certain degree, and you want it to stop vibrating before you go back and do another series of dits. Now there's the damper. Now these are your terminal screws. These are where you hook your wires up to your radio. One is part of the base. One is insulated from the base. This is on the other side here. This is the fixed dit contact. And then coming back to, this is the arch or the main frame. This would be a different style main frame, this triangular piece here, but this would be the main frame for the Champion or the Lightning Bug. And then this would be a cast, a little bit different setup, but the exact same function. But this is the mainspring on the original, which holds the pendulum in place. The next screw that we come to here, well, the next two screws that we come to here, I mean, this is the pendulum stop, which stops the movement of the pendulum so that you can adjust it into the damper slightly, just a little bit. And once this one will be set, it'll be set. You won't move it around much. This one is the dit arm adjustment, which determines how far you can swing the pendulum over before it comes into contact with that screw. And when it comes into contact with that screw at a hard stop, then it begins to vibrate. So that's this controls the distance of the swing. And the next one that we have here on is this. It goes into this spring right here, and it sets the spring tension for this dit return spring. Now this spring is not very tight, not very strong, but it's strong enough to do a good job of getting the lever off of the dit contact cleanly. That's what you want it. You want it to have enough to get off of the dit contact cleanly and not have any partial dits as it's going away from the dit contact. This spring here, the next one is the dash lever. This controls how much tension it takes to bring the dash lever over. Now, on the pendulum body itself, you have two sets of contacts. This one we've already said. This is the U-shaped dit spring. This is the dash contact. Well, that's a U-shaped dit spring, but it's the dit contact. This is the adjustable dash contact that contacts the fixed dash contact on the base of the key. It is adjustable so that you can line it up exactly where it needs to be to make good contact. The pin that goes down through here is called the arbor. The R, sometimes it's just referred to as the pivot pin. This one has a cone-shaped tip on it, where it sets in the trunnion screw or the pivot screw. There's one in the bottom of the arch. You can see it here. There's one in the top of the arch here where they lock it in place. And then at the very front we see, and it's on the front, sometimes it's on the side, but this is the shorting bar that was used during the telegraph lines. This would close the circuit on telegraph lines. This would open the circuit on telegraph lines. And a good way to tell how much use these things had and were they used on the telegraph is the amount of wear that you might see here. This one has a pretty nice little knife edge worn into it where it's been opened and closed 1,000,000 times, maybe a few 100,000, who knows, but it's enough to wear the edge pretty good. So that's kind of a non-functioning. It's kind of like the appendix. It's there, but it's not really serving much of a purpose these days. And the ones that were designed, particularly for the novice market back in the day, they just left it off. So, but that's what it is, and that's what it's for. You want to make sure it's not closed, or you'll if you walk away and touch it like this from your radio, you'll be putting out a carrier, an RF carrier on the air all the time. So be careful with it. All right. There we have the parts: the pendulum, the terminals, the dit contact, the dash contact, the pendulum stop, the dash bar, the dit bar stop, and the spring tensioner for the dit return spring. Now, you can see that I can make a tone. So what's connected to what? Well, the dit contact and the dash contact, well, they're connected to one another. And one of the terminals, there you go, one of the terminals is going to be connected to the fixed contacts. Those contacts are insulated from the base. You can see there's a nylon insulator underneath both of these. The bus that connects them from the bottom is also insulated from the base, so that now, what is connected to the base is the damper. See, open. What's connected to the base is the damper. The mainframe or arch is connected to the base, and that means that the pendulum is connected to the base. Obviously, it's connected to the base if you think about it, but sometimes we don't think about it. And what's important about that is this little point of contact. And what I have here, this is a trunnion screw that I took out of another one, and this is that same arbor, just not in the base. And the way that it is connected to the key is the bottom trunnion screw comes up from the bottom, and this point sits in this little hole right here, and that is it. This is the entire continuity, where all the continuity is for your pendulum to the base. So that's why this has to be clean. Apparently, obviously, this has to be very clean and making a good contact. But it sits in here like so, and then the once it sits in the bottom, then the other trunnion screw from the top just goes down on top and holds it in place from the top. It spins in here, and that's what allows it to move back and forth. Now I'll touch on the amount of tension and how that's supposed to be set up in the next video. But for today, those are the parts. That's the relationship they have to one another. When you close obviously, when you close the contacts, the bug, whether it's the dash contact or the dit contact, open, closed. It's very simple. Nothing can be confused about, but sometimes when we look at a bug the first time, they're a little hard to understand. But when they're demystified, they're a beautiful instrument, and they're a lot of fun, and they're fairly easy to understand and work with. Anyway, that's going to wind this up. The next video will be the pre-setup video. So thank you for watching, and hope to see you again real soon.